6 p.m. in the Grand Ghan neighborhood in Bonaberi, Douala 4 subdivision. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. At least 700 bags of rice of doubtful quality have been seized by security elements in Bomono, the Bombari subdivision, Lithura region. The said rice was mixed with animal feed and was to be distributed to suppliers across Cameroon. The factory where the illegal activity was being carried out has been sealed. And now to news out of Cameroon. The death toll from a landslide triggered by heavy rain in eastern Uganda has risen to 17, with 100 others missing. At least 45 households were completely buried. Survivors wailed for missing loved ones as rescue workers dug through the sludge in search of survivors. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Once more, thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. The Cameroon Bar has expressed grave concerns at the level of human rights violation in the country. Bar President Barrister Mba Eric Mba urged the government to take quick and adequate actions to end what they now qualify as a nightmare. Babila Jonathan reports.
The Cameroon Bar Association declares war on police brutality after the ill treatment inflicted on human rights advocate and peace crusader Barrister Tamfu Richard by gendarme officers in Douala. The bar says enough is enough. Speaking to the press in Yaoundé, Bar Council President Barrister Mba Eric Mba decried what he qualifies as an unacceptable level at which law enforcement officers violate national and international laws duly signed and ratified by Cameroon, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
It is almost a recurring issue in the police and gendarme corps that we hardly go by a week or two without noticing repeated acts of violence on civilians. We are not only particularly touched because Tamfu is a lawyer, but it is so touching because it's becoming like a recurrent phenomenon. To respect human rights is like the exception, and to abuse is like the rule. And the bar said, we cannot continue.
The Cameroon Bar threatens to take the next step should competent authorities fail to take necessary measures and actions.
Where any civilian transgresses a provision of the law, the due process of the law is supposed to be followed. Nobody is above the law, and nobody has the law in his hands to use at his whims and caprices. We are going to write to the Secretary of State of Gendarmerie, and we expect urgent, severe sanctions against the perpetrators of such barbaric acts. If they don't, the Bar Council will reconvene and we will take the appropriate measures.
The Bar President has urged law enforcement officers to respect the fundamental rights of all persons.
And in a similar story, amidst heightened tension provoked by increasing cases of human rights violations in Cameroon, rights defenders are multiplying initiatives to combat the ill. Human rights lawyers in the country have been armed with international instruments to better defend the rights of people deprived of their liberty. Femi Armstrong Sanda is the man on that story.
Arbitrary and prolonged detentions without charge or a judicial process is one of the many rights concerns raised about Cameroon this month by the United Nations Committee Against Torture. In 2022, the committee reported that the Douala New Bed prison, for example, hosts 5,000 inmates, whereas it was constructed to host 800 persons maximum. Same for the Yaoundé Koundégué maximum security prison, reported to be 5 times overcrowded. A disturbing phenomenon to legal minds and rights advocates who see in it rights abuse and a violation of the law.
Because the practice today is that detention has become a rule, and yet for us detention is not a rule until you are found guilty and then sentenced. It is only at that moment that if the sentence means that you have to go into jail, you go into jail. But when you see in our prison a lot of people there are on pre-trial detention. So they mean they are not sentenced, and so they are not guilty. So why are they doing that?
The situation is even more alarming in the security crisis regions of Cameroon, like the northwest and the southwest regions.
When you look at specific situations of that nature, you see that there are security issues that come into play and which relate to national security. Most of these issues are used as a pretext to keep persons in custody.
It is against this backdrop that lawyers drawn from the littoral, the west, the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon undertook a 2-day training in Douala on how to better care for people deprived of their liberty.
Take, for example, we used to see how the prison is overcrowded. There are times that we see juveniles being mixed with adult inmates. But we saw in that Mandela rules yesterday that actually the law makes provision for that.
The PAGOC training falls in line with a supportive program aimed at ameliorating incarceration conditions in Cameroon. This comes within a context marked by local tensions related to rights issues in the country.
Now to something else. For a long time, young people in Cameroon have been decrying the fact that they are sidelined in peace processes, as they are often not seen as perpetrators of violence and insecurity. They are now breaking new grounds to put through their contribution to the fight against growing insecurity and peace building. It was the purpose of the Cameroon Youth Peace and Security Colloquium that took place in Yaoundé, which is the central region. Babila Jonathan reports once more.
As insecurity and violence take an upward trend in Cameroon, youths, women and girls are among the most affected. Paradoxically, young people in Cameroon still face exclusion and lack of support in their efforts to contribute to peace in the country. Government, traditional, religious and community leaders continue seeing them as perpetrators of violence and victims rather than solution providers and key partners for peace. Local Youth Corner is now striving to turn the tide via the Cameroon Youth Peace and Security Colloquium. They converge on the International Relations Institute in Yaoundé to discuss their contribution to peace and security in the country.
It was a moment for all of us to bring our various contributions to be able to shape a national action plan for the youth peace and security that will reflect the challenges that young people are facing, first of all, in the various regions, northwest, southwest, far north regions, but also in other regions of Cameroon that are receiving IDPs and refugees, but also to bring our solutions as a young Cameroonian to be able to shape an action plan that will reflect the desires and the needs of young Cameroonians.
It is a gathering of potentials being harnessed by experts to serve the purpose of peace building within the nation and beyond.
The objective is to reinforce the national priorities to ensure that the state of Cameroon should be able to comply with the United Nations Security Council resolution for peace.
Will show to the world and to the Africans themselves and to the Cameroonians what the youth of Africa and of Cameroon want for their future, and how to reach peace and security within Cameroon with their help and with a contribution.
The United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250 and other related resolutions assert that the most sustainable way to build peace is to recognize and invest in young people as equal partners in peace processes.
The subject of repatriating the remains of Cameroon's first president, Amadou Ahidjo from Senegal, remains a cause for concern whenever his death anniversary on November 30th approaches. While some of Ahidjo's relatives say it is a place of the government to facilitate the return of Ahidjo's corpse, the Bias regime maintains that it is a sole decision or responsibility and affair of the family. 35 years gone, Ahidjo's remains are still in Dakar, Senegal. On the question on repatriation is divided within the government and even among family members. Innocent Aze tells us more.
1989 marks exactly 35 years since Cameroon's first president Amadou Ahidjo died of ill health and laid to rest in Dakar, Senegal, where he was on exile after being accused of a coup plot against Paul Biya when he resigned from power in 1982. Ahijo was sentenced to death in absentia in 1984, but he died of natural causes in 1989 while on exile in Dakar, Senegal, where his remains were buried. Since then till present, many citizens, especially northern Cameroonians, clamored for the return of his remains to be facilitated by President Paul Biya. All of the pressure did not in any way tickle the Biya regime until October 30, 2007 on France 24 TV that President Paul Biya declared the matter of returning Ahijo's remains from Senegal to Cameroon was a family affair, that the decision depends only on them with no objection nor observation to be made by him. On the part of Ahijo's family, the blame goes to President Paul Biya if his predecessor's corpse remains in Senegal. According to the late president's son, Muhammadu Bajika Ahijo, it is the government that needs to take the initiative to repatriate the remains of the former president, while they as a family are available to collaborate in the effort. A view supported by Ahijo's wife, also of blessed memory. She was also buried next to her husband in Dakar, Senegal, as well as their first daughter. Debates keep popping up on why the remains of the first president are not brought back to his country of origin for a state burial each time his death anniversary is around. All the Biya regime does is keep a sealed mouth on the subject, a major concern to Cameroonians, especially northern citizens, and the Amadou Ahijo's family.
Now in news out of the country, at least 15 people have perished in a landslide in Uganda, and dozens are still missing as search operation continues. Sources say that the landslide was triggered by heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, Chad has ended its defense cooperation agreement with France, a decision that could see French troops leave the Central African country. In one of these stories with our reporter, Ese Lucilengo.
15 people have died and at least 100 are still missing after a landslide caused by heavy rains buried homes in several villages in eastern Uganda. The landslide occurred on Wednesday in Bulambuli district, about 300 kilometers east Kampala, burying at least 40 houses completely and partially damaging others. Authorities stated that over 100 individuals are unaccounted for across 8 villages, with police reporting 113 missing. Rescue efforts are hampered by impassable roads, preventing vehicles, including ambulances, from reaching the affected areas. Since October, Uganda has faced an unusual heavy rainfall, leading to flooding and landslides. On Tuesday, torrential rains caused the River Nile to overflow, flooding a highway that connects Kampala to the northwest. Elsewhere, Chad's government announced on Thursday the end of its defense cooperation agreement with France, a decision aimed at reaffirming its sovereignty and adjusting its international relations away from its former colonial power. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson Abdurrahman Kulamala called this a historic turning point, occurring over 60 years after the country gained independence. The statement indicated Chad's intention to reshape its alliances based on national priorities, while also noting that this action will not weaken historical ties with France, as both nations are committed to maintaining cooperation in areas of shared interest. Chad's interim president, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, has been in power since 2021. Following his father's death, and he has frequently voiced distrust towards French President Emmanuel Macron.
Now we talk sports. The 5th season of the Women's Super League officially begins on the 30th of November 2024. For the first game, Amazon FAP will lock horns against Vision, and handball, Cameroon successfully entered the Women's Handball Africa Cup of Nations DRC 2024 by winning their first 2 matches of the competition. A sports roundup with Siri Chakutio, a sportsman.
2024-2025 edition of the Women's Division 1 Championship Super League will begin on November 30th, 2024. The announcement was done after a press conference organized on November 21st, 2024. For the opening match, Amazon FAP will be against Vision Foot at the Yaoundé Military Stadium at 3 p.m. and in the Bamenda University Stadium at 1 p.m. Authentic FC will be against Cyclone FC. And in handball, Cameroon successfully entered the Women's Handball Africa Cup of Nations Democratic Republic of Congo 2024 by beating Guinea 32-26 in their first match, then 25-23 against the Democratic Republic of Congo in their second match. For their next game on Saturday 30th November 2024, the Cameroonians handball team will face Uganda.
That's it for this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a gender activist and equally a civil society actor. She's known as LEINYUY Emelienne. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. According to an online platform known as Griot, at least 67 women have been killed either by their spouses or unknown individuals since the start of this year. What accounts for the rise in cases of femicide in this country called Cameroon?
Well, first of all, what is femicide? Femicide is the killing of women because they are women, the killing of women and girls. And actually, the statistics is they are increasing. Every time you have a case comes up. And what I can say as the causes, we have, first of all, there are a good number of them, but I'll cite some few. We have, I think, drugs and alcohol, because these are things that influence the minds of the perpetrators, and especially husbands, where they go drink and maybe they have their frustration, they come out, they have confrontations with their partners, and because of that, they harm them. Then another reason that I would like to give is, I think, unemployment, which would like every woman to have something doing. Why? Because this violence is something that starts little, bit by bit, and progresses.
Now, Emelienne, another issue raised is the silence of neighbors who often witness cases of violence. What explains the silence of neighbors when confronted with such conflicts? As a good neighbor, what would have been the right thing to do when confronted with a couple that constantly fights?
Well, the silence, it comes about because some people think that they need to mind their businesses. And then some of them are scared out of fear, like in our context here. When you hear it, you don't know how it is coming about. You want to mind your business out of fear. You just want to let them be, and it might escalate to something else. But then, what they need to do is that they should be informed, they should be educated, that when you have cases like that, you don't need to go there, because some people have gone in the course of intervening, they lost their lives. So what you need to do is to report these cases, and they should know where to report some of the cases. Human rights offices, women empowerment centers, you have social welfare, you have civil society organizations that are around. You can report them, they will know where to refer to the right places.
You are a gender activist based in Northwest region, which is a conflict zone. What are some of the challenges faced by women based in these conflict zones? Are some of them equally victims of gender-based violence?
There are some cases that come up to us when we investigate about the perpetrators. We see that it is very delicate to handle those cases, because knowing our context, where we find ourselves, it's difficult to really go deeper inside, knowing where the story is coming from or where the perpetrators are coming from. But if it's for the challenges on the part of the women in the Northwest region where we work, there are a lot of challenges. Women now, most of them have become, they're playing double roles. They are not only mothers, they are fathers now. Why? Because their husbands, some of them have run away, some of them are in prison, some of them have been killed. So without weight, it makes the woman to have a lot of stress. And most of them at times are people that have lost their homes, So they need to find themselves in some other places that they did not plan to stay. And those other people too, might be they had their plans. And when they welcome other extra people, and you know how life has become very expensive, it stresses the woman and her kids that are coming to add to another family who have their own problems. So at times they feel they have challenges of surviving, and in the course of doing that, some of them even face GBV. They are even violated in the homes that they find themselves. It could be the people that are hosting them or the neighbors around, knowing their vulnerability, and they have challenges. They could be financial. They could be they already going through trauma. They are going through trauma. They have economic problems. So in trying to solve and handle some of their problems, they might fall victims to GBV. So there are a lot. These women have a lot of challenges, as well as civil society actors, some of us that are in the field. And most of the challenges too, at times, limited finances. We don't have enough finances to get to the suburbs, to the grassroots, to listen to cases, to reach out to some of these cases. We even have some of them that we have identified, but we cannot empower them. They must have gone through a process of psychosocial support, medical support, but then financially we cannot support them enough to make them stand back to recover what they lost.
Now, critics and some observers say the government of Cameroon, through the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, has been very silent when it comes to denouncing the numerous cases of femicide recorded in this country. According to them, the government only waits for official events to speak out. Is there not an urgent need for this ministry to sit up?
Government has an important role to play in the protection of its citizens, especially women, because they are the vulnerable population. Like today, that and yesterday, this march and the launch was actually initiated in partnership with Women Empowerment and the Family, a ministry. It means that they stand with us. It means that they feel the pain. It's a government arm. So they are part of the fight. And then, when you're talking about the judiciary, I think they have put in measures that perpetrators are punished accordingly. They're punished accordingly. So I think I will not say they are doing too much, but they have tried their best. Yes, they have tried their best. They are playing a role. They are not just neutral, but they are in the fight, so that they are joining with the civil society organizations and the international organizations, so that all of us, we can. The sensitization and the campaign this year was really big. The kickoff was really big. So we think that they can do more if they are working in partnership with those that are in the grassfields and the communities.
In as much as you claim they are trying their best, many claim their best is not good enough. Now, as a gender-based activist, what are some of the activities you have been carrying out on the ground in order to limit cases of gender-based violence?
We have been carrying out campaigns, especially when it comes to, like now. Thank God you came to me during this 16 days activism. Each time we have to take active part in the activities. We started yesterday with the launching, but before then, we periodically visit schools to do sensitization on GBV, to create the awareness, to know that how they can identify the various kinds of GBV, how they can report the cases, and how they can avoid being victims. So, like during this period, we started with the launch yesterday, which was the March. Today we have visited schools, we went to GBHS downtown, Progressive, and we had talks with the students and shared information and flyers about basic knowledge on GBV and how to go about to avoid being a victim and how to report some of these cases. So we are in the field for these 16 days until the 10th of December that we are going to stop. Then might be make other programs. We will be visiting schools. So our target is women and girls. We try as much as possible to educate them, and then we don't miss out the men and the boys. We include all of them so that They could be the perpetrators, or they also could be victims. So it is interrelated.
What's the significance of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence?
16 days activism is during this period, everybody is involved, especially the civil society actors, the government bodies, administration, UN bodies, international organizations. Everybody is out to talk about it, because we have noticed that out of 3 women, 1 of them is violated. So during this period, everybody comes out to educate those that are not aware, to create awareness, to make people to know that everybody is equal. Everybody is equal. There is no human being that is more superior to the other people. As well as we try to make them know the various types of GBV and how to go about reporting it. Because there are many people in the communities that are suffering from it. They are aware of it, that this is gender-based violence, but they don't know how to go about it. They are scared. They don't know who to talk to. So in the course of this activism week, we are telling them how to move, which places you can report all those cases, as well as we are trying to inform them about how they can prevent gender-based violence. Yes, so that is what we have been doing during this activism week.
LEINYUY SABER Emelienne, gender activist and civil society actor based in Bamenda. Thank you so much for your time. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always staying with us. Coming up next in some few minutes is Equinoxe, so I will search along Otu and his guests live from Yaoundé. Have a wonderful weekend in the company of more interesting programs on the ETV. Bye-bye for now.